I'm going to perhaps direct to Tim first, because I know he's following extremely closely what is happening with what I call the ever-changing tariff regime of the United States administration. You think you're across it, and then you turn on the morning headlines, and it's changed again, most recently on steel and aluminium. So Tim, and I think perhaps just give us a bit of a headline feel for what is going on and what might be ahead for New Zealand and other countries with this. We've been sort of minimally treated relative to others, but still no tariff is welcome. And where might this be heading in the longer term, including how other trading partners might react? So Tim, have a chew at this, and then I'll bring in Phil, putting on his former Trade Minister hat and also as an acute observer. Tim, come in.
Well, Helen, I think it's very sensible to split this up as you have into two time dimensions. What's the short and medium term outlook for us, and what specifically does this mean for New Zealand? And then the really, really intriguing questions about where's this actually going longer term in terms of the underlying rules-based system, which is, an intrinsically fascinating subject, but let's just stick to what the hell is going on now. And the paradox is that although this is policy instability on steroids, 6 different tariff regimes announced for China since inauguration in January, the situation for New Zealand is relatively stable. So for reasons that no doubt we'll find out in history, they decided just to slap on during this extraordinary decision of Liberation Day on the 2nd of April, a 10% tariff on New Zealand. Now, that is on top of existing tariffs. And that has not changed. So amidst all this turbulence, the situation facing New Zealand has been quite stable. Now, 10% tariff is the default, but there is a serious danger of this extending beyond just tiny, largely aluminium, I think, rather than steel exports to other products where they are applying what's called sectoral deals, which got high tariffs. So, but at the moment, it's 10%. And that is, as I said, on top of existing tariffs. So, for example, in our wine, we've got $600 million wine export industry, fantastic success in the US market. It's our largest export market. We got in the Uruguay round very, very low, what are called specific rate tariffs, basically, essentially nothing. And on top of that now, a 10%. Now, what I've said to companies here is, first of all, this doesn't really affect our competitive position in the US market vis-a-vis other exporters, because they're all facing at least that. What it does is alter the competitive balance between us and American competitors. And the other final thing I'd say before passing the ball back to you, Helen, is that this also creates a permissive environment for protectionism. And we need to be aware this is not the first time this has happened. If we take something like sheep meat or beef, there's a very powerful lobby in the United States lobbying for action against New Zealand on sheep meat exports. And they did impose a so-called safeguard in the 1990s on us. And I mean, they just see this as I said, creating permission space politically to take protectionist measures ludicrously disguised as national security. And if you, Helen, could explain why Australian and New Zealand lamb chops endanger the security of the United States, please do so.
Tim, do you think we're benefiting from being a little bit too small to notice? Because if, for example, the administration were to focus on the single purchaser arrangements in New Zealand and Australia for pharmaceuticals more, and acknowledging that Australia dealt with that in some way in its FTA back in the early 2000s. But potentially we could face demands around these issues or escalating tariffs and other things if we were noticed. But we're a bit small fry.
Precisely correct. And that has been in the back of my mind as a worry. I've 2 or 3 times negotiated on behalf of New Zealand governments, Labour and National, on Farm Act. It's the one thing that they, at least historically, didn't like. Pharmaceutical products are absolutely in the sights of this administration. So we'll just have to hope that we sneak under the radar screen because of our small size. But potentially, you're absolutely right. There is a potential problem and the government could come under pressure, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Thanks, Tim.